Hey, thanks for joining us on our YouTube channel. It's testimony night here at Community Recovery. If you're in Shelbyville, Kentucky, come and join us in person. We're every Wednesday night from 6:30 to 8 at Shelby Christian Church.
Good evening, everybody. Good to be here again with you all this week. For those of you all that are new or just been coming for a short while, look around. This is a great group of people, men and women, just a bunch of real people dealing with real issues and supporting each other. So I just look forward to coming and being with you all every week. And here at Community Recovery, we do the CHIP system to acknowledge those milestones that you're coming up to in your life, and that can be for whatever it is you're working on. It doesn't necessarily have to be for days without alcohol or drugs. It could be whatever it is that you've been working on. When you feel like you have made these milestones in that area in your life, we certainly want you to come up and get a chip and be recognized, because these things, even though they're just small round circles, in the recovery world, are very important. I remember, especially in the early days, how much I look forward to these and how much I cherish them. I still have every single one of them. And we start out here with the starting point chip. And so if you're here tonight and you're sick and tired of being sick and tired and ready to start a new journey, a new life, a new path, we encourage you to come up here and get this starting point chip. This is like the day one chip. It can also be a starting over chip. There's several of my buddies in this room that, you know, we didn't get it right the first time, right?
Amen.
Nothing.
Don't roll me.
Right. So that's you too. Hey, you're in good company. So this can also be a starting over chip. And I always like to add, out of all of these chips up here, which I have everyone and some of them multiples of them. So I know what I'm talking about. This is the most important chip of all of these combined. And the reason for that is, without this one, you don't get any of it. This is the most important one. Anyone here tonight would like to start their journey tonight? Right here on the hill. Anyone? Come on up. All right. There you go.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Glad you're here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
What's your name?
What's your name? Barbara.
Barbara. That's Barbara, everybody. Anyone else like a starting point chip tonight? Moving right along. Eddie, it's good that you could make it tonight. Glad to see you here, buddy. Anyone have 30 days tonight? 30 days. Anyone else 30 days? 30 days. Good job.
Sober too. Not
What's
Not
that?
just
I said sober.
weekends too?
All 30 days.
All 30 days. All 30 days for everything.
60 days. Anyone have 60 days? 60? How about 90 days? Anyone have 90? 4 months? All right. 5 months. At 5, they get a little thicker. 5 months. Anyone have 5 months? 6 months. 6 months. 7. 8 months. 9 months. That number. 10 months. 11.
What's your next name?
Yeah,
11. Wait, it's June, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Double checking, double dipping.
I'm the same way.
June, one night.
That's the other thing. You can have.
Recovery in several different directions.
Thank you, Dion. What he said. You can have several things going on at one time, and based on where you are, come up and get a chip. Is there anyone here tonight that has 1 year? If you are coming up on 1 year, let Dennis know. We get a chip, a nice chip with your name engraved on it for your 1 year. So just let us know a couple months in advance as you're approaching that milestone to get a chip. So I'd like to come back around to the starting point. Chip, anyone else here tonight like to start their journey?
Yes.
Come on,
Come on.
It's Megan, everybody.
Dion started another
Dion.
journey. We're going to start another journey on some
Another iron in the fire, baby.
All right.
exercise.
All right, good job.
No.
Josh, you gonna be
How
able to
many
stay
good
away?
exercise?
I'm good. I'm
Okay.
good.
Just checking. Just checking.
I'm good.
All right. And if anyone is looking for a patio home, or know anyone who's looking for a patio home, really, in my real job, that's what I do. I sell real estate. So if you know anyone looking for a patio home, let me know. I've got one for you. Dion is up tonight to share his testimony. So everybody, welcome.
Come on,
Somebody asked me to do this the other day, and as soon as they asked me, I said yes. And then right after that, Satan said, "What are you doing?" So I started getting scared. I've been scared all week, but you know what? We're doing it scared.
That's right.
Thanks, Brad. We're going to start out. I asked my brother Eddie to read a short snippet from one of my heavy metal bands called Demon Hunter. This lyrics from Mr. Ryan Clark.
I will fail you, of that I'm sure. I will remind you of the pain forevermore. And when my sins are just a memory, faith restored, I will fail you to the core.
I've failed over and over. Remember that. Man will fail you, but get up and do it again. Don't hesitate. It's one thing that we're here for, is to help each other. My journey starts, I was born in Salem, Oregon. I spent less than 7 years there. We moved in 1969. My grandmother and grandfather were getting sick and ill, and were toward their end of their life, and my mom was getting homesick for Arkansas. They were raised, my mom and dad were both raised in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And so we moved back. During that first 7 years of my life, though, we had made several trips back and forth from Oregon to Arkansas. And my dad never took the same way anytime. Some of them went through Canada. One of them actually went through Mexico. I've visited every state west of the Mississippi except for one, and I forgive anybody. Forgive me if I say it wrong, but is it Wisconsin?
Wisconsin.
However you put the accent on there. I don't know. But anyway, that's the only state excluding Hawaii and Alaska. We got to see a lot of the western part of the beautiful western part. And anybody's seen the Rockies and goes to the Smokies, you'll ask, where are the mountains? Well, we moved back to Arkansas, and we moved to a little town called Jenny Land. Nobody's ever heard of Jenny Land. Greenwood was the next town next to that, which is a little bit bigger. Nobody knows where Fort Greenwood either is. So Fort Smith, it's second biggest town in Arkansas. It's right on the Oklahoma line. So I grew up in Tornado Alley. Jenny Lynn was actually named after a Swedish opera singer that came through there one time in the 1850s. I went to Greenwood Elementary, junior high, and high school in 3 blocks. That's how small town we were. I was raised in very strict Baptist church. Made Southern Baptists look like Presbyterians. And we were raised poor for a couple of years growing up. We actually had an outhouse. Not many people could say that, but we actually did. So we were pretty poor. But there was something we didn't need. We didn't need. My dad worked hard. We raised the garden. We were never in need. My dad was a really hard guy. He worked hard. He kept us under the whip, doing what he needed, what we needed to do. Raised us hard. And I'm sure that was probably part of his raising. But that's how we were raised. And my mom was the sweetest person you could ever meet. She was a giving heart. She would give to anyone and was the kindest person I know. And I try to emulate her more than my dad. My dad's work ethic I like, but some of his hard treatment I try to stay away from. And I have a brother that's 75 that lives in Denmark. My sister Cecile lives in Florida. I have a brother Ryan, that he lives in Arkansas, and my brother Brett that lives in Arkansas, who's a little younger than me. I grew up with love, but not with verbal or physical love. We knew we were taken care of. We knew our parents loved us, but we weren't given that physical or verbal love that we needed. I was in church from the time I was handheld, rarely missing a Sunday night, Sunday morning, Wednesday, VBS, revival, or even a work day. We were there anytime there was something to do at the church. I drank very little when I was younger, mostly for peer pressure when I was a kid. Music was something that my parents loved. I grew up on quartet and gospel, country, bluegrass, old Grand Ole Opry stuff. So I got a real heart for that. When we had the hymn sing-along the other day, it was right up my alley. I missed that. I surrendered my life to God in 1980. One of the girls that I knew, her sister was at church camp, and she was giving her testimony at church camp and said she was just going through the motions. She said she thought she was saved. But it turns out, she said, I was just going through the motion. And it struck me and tore me up from Thursday night. I heard that all the way to Sunday morning. Sunday morning, when the hymn was sung, I was ready to go down the aisle because my spirit was tore up. I was saved then. When I graduated high school, I moved to Nashville and went to Nashville Auto Diesel College. I thought I wanted to be a mechanic. It was either that or a stock car driver. I wanted to be the next Cale Yarborough or Buddy Baker. Sorry, the king. I didn't want to be the king. I wanted to be Buddy Baker or Cale Yarborough. And so I started going to school at night and working during the day. My first job was at a plumbing company that only lasted 12 years. So guess what? I turned into a plumber instead of a mechanic. And then I met a girl, young and dumb, naive, married and divorced in a year. About a year after that, I met wife number 2, Lynn, through a friend at church. Dated for about 4 years and got married. A year or 2 after we got married, she was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. And for a young person with rheumatoid arthritis, it's pretty damaging and a hard pill to swallow. She started into a spiral with prescription drugs. Rheumatoid arthritis drugs, pain medicine, psych meds. Prednisone was one of the medications, if anybody knows about prednisone. In 1991, I fell off a ladder and broke both my arms. In I think it was about 1993, I hyperextended my knee. If anybody knows anything about hyperextending a knee, it's very painful And if you've watched any football games, you've seen some really hurt football players on the field doing that. Not fun, takes a while to recover. Pain equals alcohol. It turned into my pain medication. My job was new construction, so I started a side repair business, and that grew and grew. My work ethic kept me going. I had a brother-in-law that worked for Ford Motor Company, and my father-in-law had retired from Ford due to alcohol. He had to be forced retired. And so he got me an application. I was hired on at Ford Motor Company at the Nashville glass plant and started making automotive glass in 1996. Prior to that, I had worked for 1 year putting in central vacuum cleaners. You know, the kind you plug in a wall and have a hose laying around the house. That was a pretty cool job because I got to work in some fancy houses. And I worked for a large mechanical company doing all kinds of pipe fitting, everything but weld pipe. I helped the welders, but I didn't actually do weld pipe. But I worked all over the southeast doing mechanical work, mostly in the Nashville area, but I worked in Maysville, Kentucky, and worked in Florida some, doing anything from medical waste pipe to high pressure pipe, even some sprinkler pipe, but you name a pipe, I probably put it in. My dad's hard work ethic wasn't a problem until it was a problem. You know, I don't know, there's probably one or two guys in here, maybe even women, that make work their God, and there's always stuff to work for. And I was actually working anything from 80 to 100 plus hours a week. My side business, I worked on anything from Section 8 homes to $1 million homes or more. And yes, a few of my customers were celebrities. I worked to get stuff, I worked to get more stuff. And music turned into one of my habits. And in the 80s, rock radio got very boring, if anybody remembers, the early 80s. It just got real boring. And AOR, if you remember the 70s, AOR music, you could hear 12-minute songs on the radio. You could not hear it in the 80s. They had to be all under 4 minutes. I mean, it was rare you heard a 6-minute song on the radio. And so MTV started doing something different. They had a call-in show. And anybody watched MTV in the 80s? And they had the call-in show. And even Stryper made it to the top 10 and, you know, for days and days and days with several of their songs. So heavy metal took off. And so I turned into a metalhead. I found a little 1,000 watt radio station out of Gallatin, Tennessee that played anything for an underground, from punk rock all the way to hard like Testament and Slayer stuff. So I was in heaven, learning all these new bands, having fun. I love music, but heavy metal and hard rock is my mainstay. So if you got any questions, and I know Christian metal now. And so Lynn's rheumatoid arthritis had progressed. She started doctor shopping, buying street pills from her niece would hook her up with somebody that she had a social loser niece, as I called her. Started buying some pain pills on the street. She was hiding money, and finally I found out after 3 totaled cars, and I found out the money problems. And so I talked to our family and we had an intervention, and all I got was a hard no. So divorce number 2 come along. And after that, what did I do? I went to work, I partied, and I went to the church. I was one of those Christians that people talk about. The one that people say, hey, I'm just as good as he is. That was me. I was living a double life. Typical. During the divorce, a transfer to Tulsa was offered. And I transferred to Tulsa Glass Plant in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was 2 hours away from my mom and dad. So that was a blessing. I could go see my mom and dad were in their 70s, coming up on their 80s. So I was like, hey, I can move over there. in the meantime, while I'm in the process of moving, I met wife number 3. We long distance dated for a year or so. And then we did 10 years and about 3. We dated, married, had 2 kids, and divorced in about 3 years. Little did I know, she was a serious control freak. And she hid it very well. When we got married and got to Oklahoma, it came out ugly. And I had overheard her talking about leaving, taking the kids, and going back to Tennessee. I freaked out, got a lawyer, and started a divorce procedure to save my kids from running away from me. I did not want to lose my kids. It took about 18 months for a divorce, or custody battle. It wasn't about the divorce because that was over. And on their 3rd birthday, the custody order was signed, and we had shared custody. And she was dead set on moving to Tennessee. She moved to Tennessee. We, every other week, we drive halfway across Arkansas and exchange the kids. It was tough, but it was okay. And I started going to a church in Tulsa called Battle Creek. Very nice church. I didn't even know it was a Baptist church, which I didn't care until I was there about 3 years. But it's one of the largest churches in Tulsa now. I could say the wrong thing. They've got, I believe, 5 campuses now. Alex Maya, if you get a chance to meet the guy, he's a wonderful pastor. And still doing the work party and a little less of the party, but still going to church, trying to walk that line all the time. And Sherry's intention was to go back. She did, and she changed her mind. She'd come back to Tulsa. Not only did she come back to Tulsa, my apartment was here, hers is upstairs next to me. Now, I really don't think the apartment people put her there on purpose. I believe she asked, and it wasn't good. And eventually she got depressed. And she called me one day and asked me to keep the kids. The next day I knew she didn't go to work. And I started to have second thoughts about what was going on. And so I called my girlfriend at the time and said, hey, can we go to the zoo with the kids? And so the next morning we got up, took the kids to the zoo, and I called for a well check. She had tried to commit suicide. She was found in her kitchen floor in fetal position. Got an EPO, and on our next court date, her mom had flew into town to come to court with her. Her mom found her on the floor again for another suicide attempt. And during that, I got full custody. And I'll tell you, prayers for all the single parents. If you know a single parent, reach out and help them, because they need it. Promise. In the meantime, I'm offered another. The automotive industry was getting rid of all their parts division. And earlier on, the automotive industry tried to do everything in-house. They tried to build every part. But finally, the little parts guys kept creeping in and taking away the parts business. And the prices kept dropping. So Ford, GM, Chrysler had to divest of all their small parts companies. Glass tended to be one because most of our glass is made out of the country nowadays. So the glass company were shutting down. The glass company I work for in Tulsa now is a parking lot. It's just a grown over field. So another job offer. I went to Kansas City to work at Kansas City's assembly plant. And the difference from working a parts plant to working an assembly plant is night and day. Anybody that's worked in manufacturing, hats off to you. Anybody that hasn't, you have no idea how hard that job is. It's torture on your mind and your body. And went to Kansas City, and it was hard. My bottle got bigger and bigger and deeper and deeper. my pain kept growing. 10 surgeries by this time. I'd had my left elbow worked on, my left shoulder both worked on. I'd broken my nose, had to get it worked on. I'd had a ruptured disc in my neck. My knee finally had to have scoped for meniscus tear. And ask me later, but my big toe had operation 4 different times. I was in constant pain, and my back had started to hurt. I was in constant pain and drank more and more to mask the pain. Constant pain is no joke. And it's hard for most people, if you don't have it, to understand it. It's also anxiety and depression. People that don't have it don't understand. And try to give some grace. If you don't understand it, try to give some grace to those people, because it is hard. 4 more surgeries while I was in Kansas City for 3 years. I had my knee operated on again. My right shoulder, I had separated the tendon off the bone, had to be pulled up and tied onto the bone and glued back on. Had carpal tunnel, and both of my elbows have been decompressed for the nerve. Alcohol was pain reliever, more and more and more. Tried to stop, went to counseling, went to treatment, AA, then I put repeat, repeat, repeat. When I say I can tile a bathroom, I could probably tile a bathroom with first time chip. I truly have. I've started over so many times. So if you're afraid to start over, get back in here and get that blue chip. Right? I'm not the only one that's had to repeat. And another move. It's offered a move to come to Louisville Assembly Plant. The escape line was shut down in Kansas City, and they offered us a chance to move here. And Sherry had since moved back to, she had caught up with us and had started healing her relationship with the kids after her suicide attempts. And so we were getting along fairly well. And so I went and talked to her, and I said, hey, I've got a chance to move back to Louisville. I know she wanted to be closer to Tennessee, and this is a lot closer to our family in Tennessee. So we made an agreement. We rented a big house, her upstairs and I downstairs, and shared a house for a year, just so we could get over closer this way. And about 7 or 8 months later, I went to the Brook, and I met Kimberly there. That's a story for another day. Some of y'all know it, but that'll be for one of our future shares. But stayed sober for maybe a year, and slowly slipped back in. And anybody that's been in alcohol, slow goes pretty fast. Sherry finally moved out, and then I called Kimberly, and we started dating, and we got married. Sherry and the kids' relationship with me got rocky. Kimberly and I had our ups and downs. And finally, Labor Day weekend in 2013, I had the kids. I got drunk. Cops are called. I was arrested. EPO, I lost my kids. And that was probably the hardest thing I went through. Lost custody. Spiraled very deep in a short time. And Kimberly and I were still together at that time, but we were both broken. Pain, depression, alcohol finally cost me my job. Sherry left for Tennessee with the kids. She wouldn't even let me talk to them on the phone. I couldn't see him, couldn't talk to him, even though I was supposed to be able to. And that's how controlling she was. Very hard mentally. It took a toll on me. I'd attended a recovery group called The Way out of Lincoln Hills Christian Church in Corydon. And once, but I wasn't ready to let go. Wasn't ready for somebody to know my stuff, or all of it. I finally surrendered to recover, but recover's not the right word. Let's get it right. If we recover, we're going to go back to what we were at We need a renewing and a transformation. And that's what I had to go to. Small group of godly men. One's alcoholic. One's a drug user. And this man that used drugs, he almost died. And he recovered and got well physically, mentally, and spiritually. And 2 porn sex addicts walked side by side with these godly men. They held me up, kept me from falling. And now I need somebody to read for me. I need somebody to read Ecclesiastes 4, 9 and 10.
2 are better than 1, because they have a good return to their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up.
One of my favorite scriptures for recovery. You need somebody with you. Now I got Proverbs 27:17.
As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another.
Listen to that. Both of those scriptures are very strong here. If you need help, there's somebody in this room that's here to help you. Promise. I'm not sure when my last drink was, but it was sometime in the spring of 2014. I chose April Fool's Day for the fun. Kind of ironic, isn't it, Laurie? So I thought it was a pretty fitting day to start my journey to recovery. Use April Fool's Day. I eventually started a reunification process with Dion and Sarah. That's my kids' names. Sherry fought it all the way. She would not let me have, and so we ended up making many trips. We probably made about 20 trips to Nashville, driving from Corydon to Nashville, Tennessee. Really, actually, to Columbia, Tennessee, which is about an hour south of Nashville, for visitation, for small visitations or counseling sessions. And then COVID hit, and that was great. And so we were doing it virtually. And Sherry was real good about canceling several meetings because of one thing or another. It wasn't fun. And then recently, we kept doing that until kids turned 18, and when they turned 18, their mom had full control over everything, and they weren't allowed. I'm sure that if they would have talked to me, they would have got kicked out of the house. At 18, they were at the mercy of their mother. No contact. Kimberly and I pray for Dion, Sherry, and Eula. That's their grandmother every day. We do it every day. 2 weeks ago, my son reached out to me. We actually talked for an hour. He's out of his mom's home. He apologized for not being more open to talking to me. Prayers and perseverance are real. I continue to stay connected to godly people and to fight my many demons. God brought me here to serve Him. Funny story on the side. I was wearing one of my Trans-Siberian Orchestra t-shirts. If you know who Trans-Siberian Orchestra, they actually came out of a metal band. And there's actually a person in this church that played drums for that band back in 1980, probably 4 or 5. And the band's called Sabotage. Very good band, but they're the one that kind of went. Chris Oliver and Tim O'Brien, the producer, sort of sat down and created Trans-Siberian Orchestra. The first album was actually put out as Sabotage and got 0 airplay. They changed the name of the band. Next year it took off to 97% of their market share. But Cash, our sound man, played drums for that band back in the 80s. So I've just made connections here, and Cash is one of those. I'm just happy to be here. And if any of you know, I've got a nickname for any recovery group I'm in. You know what these things, I didn't bring the big one, but we're a barrel of monkeys, guys. You're here to help somebody. And guess what? There's another guy needing help.
Mm-hmm.
So reach down, reach up. If you need a hand up, reach up. If you see somebody that needs help, reach down. Now I've got these little bitty ones, and I give these. These are little pocket trinkets, or put them on your desk, or whatever. I got a few left, so if you would like one, don't hesitate to come get one.
You guys come up here and spill your guts out and share your story. So thank you, Dion, for doing that, man.
Good job, buddy.
I lost my train of thought there. You got me all
Monkeys.
choked up.
We're
You
talking
got me all
about
choked up
monkeys.
there.
No, not related to monkeys.
What I was going to say is there is a few new folks in the room tonight. So testimony nights, we do 3 of them every series that we do. So our 12 steps, we do them over 16 weeks. So you wonder how we're going to do, you can't do a step a night. There's too many weeks, right? But what we do is we do step 1, 2, and 3. And every 4th week, we stop, take a pause night, we do a testimony or a guest speaker or something along that lines. So that breaks it up a little bit. So you'll get 3 steps, you'll get a break, you'll get 3 more, a break, and so on. And the very last night, week 16 of our series, we usually do what we call a celebration night. That can be, maybe we'll have somebody come in and do some worship, maybe sing a few songs, just hang out and have a pizza party, whatever we do, I don't know. Last time we had a picnic out in the shelter, and we all came, we all brought a dish, and we just hung out and celebrated what this recovery is. It's a group, it's a family, and we're all here, like Dion said, we're all here to lend a hand to each other. Okay, so next week we'll be at step 4, and I don't have my schedule in front of me, so I'm not sure who's doing that one. Is it Keith?
Dean.
Oh, Dean, I'm sorry. Okay. So please come back and hang out with us then. We'll take 5 minutes here, 7:25, so we'll break till 7:30. We'll split up into men's and women's groups. The men meet behind me in this room here, and the ladies will meet in the next steps room, and we'll meet till 8 o'clock. So take 5 minutes, we'll meet. Here's some monkeys up here if y'all want one.
Monkey!
Thanks for joining us here on our YouTube channel. Please join us in person every Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. at Shelby Christian Church. Thank you.